Hello, everybody. Welcome. So yesterday's recording introduced some topics orbiting my perspectives on intelligence and the catastrophic lack of it, or really its standing opposite, appearing as techne in our species. It should be obvious that a species that is so wedded to techne that they will obliterate the history and future of life on their world, even if they're only doing that for a short term, even if they don't completely succeed, that can't be intelligent, because that move ends all life games. And it turns out that living worlds like ours, which appear to be, from some perspectives, relatively invincible, you can't exterminate them. There are vectors through which they can be snuffed. And there's a couple particularly which I'll avoid mentioning here, but I'm deeply aware of these vectors, and they're accessible to human technology. Well, what that means is it's physically possible at the moment for a single bad actor or a small group of committed bad actors with a relatively modest amount of funding to produce technologies that wipe out the humans, and conceivably wipe out life on Earth. You don't have to take my word for it. Daniel Schmachtenberger is well aware of this. Other threat analysts and very intelligent people can see that we're not merely on the brink of the capacity for small groups of humans to produce world-ending technologies. We're past that brink. It's a doable thing. But that's not what I intend to focus on here today. I'm not trying to force people to believe what I believe about this. Rather, I just wanted to be clear that at the group scale of the humans, our species is not an intelligent species. It's a reckless, opportunistic, conversionist species that will quickly produce technologies that obliterate its history and future, if not the history and future of all life on Earth. That's not intelligent. Any move that ends the possibility of complex intelligence for a given species or planet must be understood as the opposite of actual intelligence. Now today, I went to apply for a passport, and I should have probably tried to find a more economical way there. It cost me about $30 to get across town, and I'm presently walking back through some of the most dangerous areas in San Francisco. This is not particularly terrifying to me. I'm well aware of the risk. This guy's holding court over here. Because apparently He's got some incredibly important things to communicate to the rest of us, and nobody's listening. I think, oh wow, I haven't been here in forever. Oh man, when I first came to San Francisco, I came to this area. And I went to this fountain shop, the St. Francis Candies, Ice Cream, and Lunches shop. And I haven't been here in like 35 years or something. And I thought perhaps I was in that neighborhood that I originally visited here. But it's very nostalgic. I am actually in the very first neighborhood that I visited when I first came here almost 35 years ago, which is deep in the Mission. I'm on the corner of Bryant and what is this, 24th? Yeah. 2600 block of Bryant. And back in the day, this doesn't matter, I better stay on topic before I get too autobiographical here. So I decided to walk the route home from India Basin. And there were some pretty rough neighborhoods there, which could end up with me in trouble. There's lots of little isolated spaces I had to walk through where somebody approaches me, there's nowhere to go, it's a wall. But I'm pretty streetwise. I was a runaway when I was a kid. That doesn't mean I can't be harmed or mugged or, get into trouble. But it does mean that I know how to project what you might call the attitude. And look, a smart person wouldn't take the risk. What, $20, $30 to get home? Just take the Uber rather than risk your life or whatever. But occasionally one needs to have a little bit of adventure, and I like to have some. So I'm having one now. Thanks for joining me in it. So, I've long argued that our species isn't intelligent. Our relationship with technology, language, and techne is fundamentally self-compromising, right? It's a pattern of recursive, invasive, opportunistic compromises as if there's something that resembles actual evil, spiraling in and fracking our minds, relationships, history, and future. For the sake of the production and amassing of commodities, tokens, right? We are a tokenizing species. We kill the living world to produce little objects that can be exchanged ad infinitum. And the real problem on Earth isn't necessarily
You blaming me, and you damn well before I got here you got nothing. So it's nothing.
So the real problem here isn't necessarily human population, it's object population. The Earth can probably sustain many billions of humans, maybe 8 or 9, who knows, 10. We don't really know. But what obliterates the carrying capacity of the planet is the dead structure that we call cities, roads, technologies, and objects. We produce billions of toxic objects per minute, and apparently that's not satisfying enough, so we had to start expanding that into a situation where we can produce billions of electronic objects per second, or trillions, at an ever-increasing environmental cost. This is not intelligence. Our species is not intelligent. What we mean, usually, we, as if there is a unified us, which there isn't. Almost whenever we hear the asterisk word we, it almost always these days refers to an absence, particularly if it's being used in any collective sense. For example, we the people. There's no such thing as that. We never formed that collective. It doesn't exist. Oh, this is trippy. Huh. So in the same way that nearly all of our conceivable we groups are fake, really what they are is just drawing a circle around a bunch of slaves, victims, pirates, malignant, right, world fracking, obliterators of destiny. We're trapped in a kind of a death spiral here. And, we, as humans, our species has mostly been able to avoid catastrophic, worldwide exterminations of humans since World War II. But the chances of that continuing for very long are extremely slim, it seems to me. And even if they do, stranger threats will arise. The mechanical processes that are being referred to as artificial intelligence will certainly breed a broad array of black swans. Like, no one expected the Spanish Inquisition, but let's see here. It might be time for some shoe tying. So, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, in his book, his brilliant book, The Black Swan, talks about the profound effect of sudden unexpected transformations. And it's a brilliant book, but the problem is, I don't think he was expecting that the humans would produce a technology that would become essentially a black swan factory, right? Just endlessly producing ever deadlier and more rapidly emerging unexpected transformations of power, ability, and technique. And this is certainly what AI, which I don't actually believe is intelligent, it's really just heuristic processing of databases so far. But this is what AI will certainly quickly become, a black swan factory. And the optimists are hopeful that, as they ever were, the technology will somehow save us from technology. Not going to happen. You'd have to reorient the humans at the species level away from tokenization, representational cognition, commodification, piracy, slavery, fracking. And by that word, what I mean is the intentional, destructive mining of human potential, relationships, identities, and roles. In the same way that our people inject radioactive waste into groundwater which is pretty much the single most insane thing I could possibly imagine if I were just rolling insane dice, right? And they came up, let's inject toxic waste into the into the water table to pull natural gas out of that shit. I mean, if nothing's going to oppose that, then everything's on the table. Let's inject toxic waste into your children's brains to, whatever, any kind of ridiculously nightmarish extraction agenda is suddenly, less threatening because of the commonality of insane technological, almost always related to energy, gambits that are world-ending and life-ending and body poisoning. All right, there's nothing crossing the street. So yeah, the humans are, at the group level, they're batshit insane. They're nothing like intelligent. The fact that we can produce complex techne, I'm using the Greek word here, is not an indication of intelligence. It's an indication of the history and future of life on Earth and our species being captured by forces that advertise themselves as virtuous, time-saving, convenient, and so on, but actually are omnicidal and devastatingly rapacious. So I just want to be really clear, that's not intelligence. Techne isn't intelligence. And if you observe nature, you see very complex physical and relational interactions too, but inactions of symbiotic, mutually conservative, mutually beneficial intelligence. The humans look at the spider in whose body the eggs of a wasp are laid, and they look at the incredible sophistication of the wasps, the tiny little creature's ability to strike a nerve center. It's like a 50th of a millimeter in size with an ovipositor or a stinger. And they say, well, nature's red in tooth and claw. Those two organisms are the same organism. In fact, anyone who pays attention to life on Earth will see that it's not as if there's a bunch of organisms in competition. Rather, it is as if there is a single organism in profusive, symbiotic, symphony, right? Relational symphonies. And this is how I prefer to think about Earth. life on Earth as a single organism in billions of forms, or, trillions of bodies. But the humans, weirdly, the ones who call themselves sapiens, have defected. From the unity and are trying to burn it down for the sake of ridiculous nonsense. Dead objects, dead terrain. I mean, I'm walking right now surrounded by machines and the shops are burgeoning with objects. There's no possible argument for 12 billion packets of ketchup per day. In any case, oh wow, there's the C.G. Jung Institute of San Francisco. Didn't even know that existed. My frenemy, Dr. K, likes to tell psychologists that Jung was a Nazi and that there's documentary evidence of this, which he provides for them as they pretty much flip their shit when they hear that. However, lots of brilliant people held bizarre or inhuman perspectives. And, scientists, mathematicians, philosophers, technologists, look at the people who are building what we refer to as AI. They don't care if it snuffs the entire game. They don't care enough to stop, because the draw of the possibility of power or money, which are representations of value, is so inescapably compelling that they will end the entire historical line of their people, or of the animals, or of the rainforests, to simply produce a better machine. This is a really shitty epitaph for life on our world. One hopes that there's something intelligent enough to intervene. Either the planet herself, and I do gender the earth as female, progenerative of living children. The earth herself, I suspect she is more than merely a being, has friends, companions, and allies. And, as James Lovelock opined, I think he said something which I'm paraphrasing slightly here. Wow, you humans have really fucked up now. You have become a virus that the earth must extinguish. You have given her a fever. Lovelock wasn't, as I understand it, I could be wrong about this, but Lovelock wasn't a biophilic prodigy like some people we know. He wasn't fundamentally biophilic. Rather, he was a cyberneticist. So he was interested in demonstrating that it was plausible that the biologies of Earth could mechanically negotiate environmental and atmospheric homeostasis, right? Regulation of the environment in a way that is beneficial for organisms, or at least conserves the possibility of a continuing context in which they might exist. So his Gaia theory wasn't, a sort of woo-ish metaphysical thing, but was actually relatively mechanical in basis. And a lot of the early cyberneticists became biophiles. I like to think Bateson did. His daughter Nora certainly is a biophile. Tamsin Woolley Barker, who's a Facebook friend of mine, is also a brilliant biophile. But a lot of these early cyberneticists were trying to create mechanical systems that emulated or took advantage of principles they discovered in nature. And let's be clear, all of our machines are like this. It's just that nature is so catastrophically elegant, like unemulably elegant in her composition of symphonic, symbiotic benefit for all beings. Obviously, if you think of the Earth as one creature, there's really no such thing as what? There's no such thing as evil. There's no such thing as really competition, because all of the beings, their interactions benefit all of the beings and contribute to the sustainment of the context in which they arise, develop. Evolve, reproduce, always feeding each other. One of my sort of favorite jokes is that 3.5 billion years ago, an alien spacecraft crashed on Earth, and there were no survivors, but it contained a sandwich. And the sandwich survived the collision. And that's why everything here is basically sandwiches that eat each other. Now this has been a long introduction here. And it's been largely off topic, so let me try to redirect the thread toward where I hope to actually go, which is this. Sometime in the 80s, extremely bad music was invented. Sometime in the 80s, Douglas Adams, I think, wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. And, when I was a teenager, I did a lot of hitchhiking myself, although mostly in a single area, an area around the Russian River. And it turns out that if you watch not just other biological systems and organisms and ecologies and things, but even if you watch humans, hitchhiking turns out to be one of the primordial principles enacted in living systems and situations. You know, if I go, for example, to the park, where the hell am I? Okay, let's see here. 18.
I love you.
Love you too. I better turn from my evil ways. So yeah, hitchhiking. If I go to the concourse and I just start practicing Tai Chi, right? People will walk by, and you'll see them start to stretch and dance and move. And they're doing that because they've taken the cue from a local instance of beneficial activity. When you watch a flock of birds, you'll see that they hitchhike on each other's sensing. They hitchhike on each other's observational skills. They fly together for each other and as individuals, right? So they're like one organism in flight, and they're also still individuals. So when I watch nature, I see endless call and response behavior that's highly intelligent. I see a lot of hitchhiking. When I watch the birds, you can see tension distributing among a group of animals. And you can see the tension build up until suddenly one or more of the animals will begin behaving aggressively, which only rarely results in an actual attack. And then you will see both the attacker and the victim and the rest of the animals, they will shake. They will vibrate together. The animals and the plants and the ecologies evince a mode of behavior and recognition and iterative ascent toward what I will argue. Wow. I haven't seen this place in forever. Toward what I will argue is tends to advance everyone's potentials for not just survival, but developmental efflorescence. And this is what I really mean by intelligence. Benefits everybody. Yes, there are, in a sense, we might think that there are sacrifices. This animal is eaten, those children die, this elder perishes. It's not that everyone gets to survive indefinitely. That's not how the game works. But actual intelligence looks like a sort of communal, complex communal relationships that have the effect of raising the bar for all participants, past, present, and future. Past, because the participants that are here today are the bodies of ancestral beings and lineages. Past, present, and future. And that's what intelligence looks like to me. Unfortunately for life on Earth, the extremely sudden emergence of human technological garbage and toxicity, didn't give the creatures long enough to adapt. Tigers might have been able to adapt to spears if there weren't millions of humans using them. Less so to bows and arrows. By the time guns appear, there's no chance of adaptation. Tigers just get executed, extinguished in a very short period of time. There's stories about jaguars in South America hunting and killing the hunters who brought guns down there to kill them, and having those hunters having to be taught by tigreros, which were highly skillful spear hunters that had traditionally preyed on the jaguars. Though why anyone would want to kill a jaguar is completely inconceivable to me. You might as well attack the sun. But the humans are really bold. They'll go after anything that moves and most of what doesn't, just for the sake of having said, I killed it. Weird. So when you look at nature, what you see are complex multi-layered systems, highly dimensionalized over time, that opportunistically ratchet toward mutual benefit, survival of the context, right? Preservation of the context of life itself, homeostatic, ever improving homeostatic resilience. Because time-space is sketchy. There's lots of dangers. In a sense, the problem we have with humans is a problem of way too much luxury. There's nothing killing us off, en masse regularly enough to keep us from converting this unimaginable luxury into omnicide. The hallmark of intelligence isn't merely survival. It's complex.
Very withdrawn. Doesn't respond like.
You get across the street before I hypocritically fail to do something that resembles like what I'm talking about. So in a sense, one could imagine that actual intelligence looks like a communal magnification of the dimensionality of potentials for resilience and complex developmental embodiment, right? And you can see that what the humans are doing is the opposite of that. They're dumping planetary, biological, and ecological resilience into machines, into dead structure. I mean, look at the ridiculousness of the idea of pavement, and how lethal that is, because it just subtracts living space from the planet at an ever-increasing rate. The machines own nearly everything where I live. And what the machines don't own, the pirates own. It's almost all dead structure. I am a homeless person with a home. I cannot belong to the land. The land cannot belong to me or my people. It's been parceled, purchased, parasitized, punished, and obliterated. And the fact that the boxes around me appear to have been, in this case, well ornamented, is a tragic antithesis of anything resembling real value. Real value is always alive. Real intelligence remembers its origins, protects them, preserves the context from which they arose and in which they developed. So these are some of the thoughts that I have today, and some of the things that I hoped to discuss yesterday, which were particularly the way that organisms hitchhike on each other's historical, biorelational, and cognitive activity to produce this enhancement of opportunity and resilience that we see in places like the rainforests of the Amazon, or the untouched, I guess there's no such thing anymore, but we might imagine to have been the untouched beauty of the oceans prior to them having been furiously intoxicated, obliterated, and pirated by something that I don't really even think is human. Individual humans can be human. It's very uncommon for collective humans to be human. They turn into some kind of monstrous, self-capturing nightmare of replicative omnicide. And people might think, Darren, you're being a little extreme. No, I'm not being extreme enough. I'm holding back big time for the sake of the tenor of my lecture here today. For now, this is all I have. I am approaching one of my transit objectives. I have walked through the valley of death and have come out shining today, this time. And I'm going to celebrate that with a specific food that also is nostalgic. One of the first places I ever ate at a restaurant here when I first came here, circa what? 1991? I think that's right. 90, 91, 89 through 91, somewhere in there. So thank you for joining me. I hope you found some useful and inspiring perspectives in my talk today, even though to some degree I'm a little bit embarrassed by it because it was a lot of venting and not a lot of highly sophisticated or novel content. So much appreciate you who journey with me and share or like my recordings. I don't allow advertising on my channel, which would be way too ironic for me to stomach. I will leave you with a Blackfoot phrase. Stomachcuct omonist awawakakt. Stomachcuct omonist awawakakt. The simple translation of which is keep going. Keep on keeping on. The complex translation of which is in the winter, when the buffalo herds are starving and they can't get food, and there's ice everywhere, the old bulls who no longer reproduce would have massive head and neck strength, body strength, massive horns. They smash through the ice and carve a path in it so that the herd and the children will not perish, but will come to food. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to learning again together very soon. Bye-bye for now.